What if storms had levels? From a quiet breeze all the way up to planet-sized monsters that never die. Yeah, it gets terrifying fast. Let's dive right in.
Level 0. The sky isn't silent, it just hasn't spoken yet. Clouds drift like idle thoughts. A breeze stirs the grass without urgency. There's pressure in the air, not emotional, but barometric. Warm air rests over cool air. Moisture lingers, not as rain, but as potential. It feels peaceful, ordinary, but above you, invisible boundaries form. A cold front inches closer. A sea surface warms a degree too far. Somewhere over a mountain range, air is being forced upward. This is level 0. The atmosphere is loaded, the setup is in motion, but nothing breaks yet. No thunder, no lightning, no wind that warrants a warning. Just a quiet instability, the kind that always comes before the noise. And storms? They always start here, balanced on a blade of air.
It's that eerie, loaded silence vibe. Not silence, but a pregnant pause, like nature's holding its breath. Farmers call it storm breeding weather. Animals get twitchy and we just feel it. No app needed. Our bones are basically barometers. Crazy how the air itself can whisper something's coming before a single drop falls, and honestly, I kind of love the feeling.
Level 1. The thunderstorm. It begins with a single breath. Warm, moist air rises fast. Too fast for the sky to absorb it quietly. As it climbs, it cools. Water vapor condenses into clouds. The cloud towers. Cumulonimbus. From the ground, it looks like a mountain of vapor. White, gray, billowing. But inside, it's a factory of violence. Rising air, sinking air, ice crystals, water droplets, all rubbing, crashing, building static. Then, lightning. A jagged fork cuts the sky, heats the air to 30,000 degrees Celsius, 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. That sudden expansion rips the air apart. Thunder. And then, rain. Heavy, relentless, not a mist, a sheet. Wind whips it sideways. Leaves rattle. Roads blur. This is a single-cell thunderstorm, the kind that forms in the afternoon and collapses in under an hour. But it can flood streets, strand drivers, and set whole forests ablaze with one lightning strike. It's short-lived, but surgical. Every year, isolated thunderstorms cause thousands of injuries and deaths worldwide, and most people never see them coming. Stay indoors and away from windows. If thunder roars, go indoors. Lightning can strike 10 kilometers away from a storm. Avoid water, electronics, and open fields, because lightning doesn't care if the rain has even started yet.
That mountain of vapor is such a trickster. Looks majestic, but inside it's like a chaotic rave of droplets and ice shards grinding static. Lightning being 5 times hotter than the sun feels illegal physics. And the pop-up thunderstorm is the worst roommate. Shows up uninvited, trashes everything in 45 minutes, then just leaves.
Level 2. The severe storm. Now the storm grows teeth. It doesn't just build, it organizes, rotates. Winds shear across altitudes, twisting the updraft into a spiral column of fury. Raindrops turn to ice. Not snow, hail. Small at first, then larger. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 5 centimeters. By the time they hit the ground, they're falling at 100 kilometers per hour, or faster. A severe thunderstorm is defined by 3 things. Hail at least 2.5 centimeters in diameter. Winds over 93 kilometers per hour, or a tornado. But those are just thresholds. The real damage? It begins long before those markers are crossed. Hailstones slam into windshields, rooftops, greenhouses, and animals. They shred crops in minutes. A single storm can wipe out an entire harvest. In 2023, northern Italy saw hailstones the size of grapefruits, punching holes through metal. Microbursts, rapid downdrafts that slam into the ground and spread outward, mimic the force of a bomb blast. They strike without warning, tearing down trees and flipping small planes. In 1994, one took down US Air Flight 1016 just before landing. Lightning becomes erratic. Ground strikes hit far from the core, bolts from the blue. It only takes one, and then comes the rainfall rate. 50 millimeters in 30 minutes. That's enough to overwhelm any urban drainage system. Storm drains back up. Highways vanish beneath flash floods. People in low-lying cars don't stand a chance. The storm doesn't just hit, it takes. When hail starts falling, move indoors or to shelter immediately. Even small stones can injure or kill. Never drive into water-covered roads. Just 15 centimeters of water can sweep a car. Stay weather-aware, not weather-brave.
Storm Grow's Teeth is perfect. It's basically Pokemon evolution, but with hailstones as the upgrade. Grapefruit-sized ice punching through metal sounds like nature's version of artillery. And those microbursts, literal invisible bombs from the sky. Kinda wild how a storm can 1 minute be Instagram aesthetic and the next minute casually flipping airplanes like it's swatting flies.
Level 3. The supercell. This isn't a storm. It's a rotating machine. The atmosphere doesn't just allow it, it sustains it. A supercell is a thunderstorm with a mesocyclone, a rotating updraft that spins like a vertical turbine. It rises 15 to 20 kilometers into the atmosphere, touching layers where planes fly. It doesn't just last an hour, it can persist for 6. Inside, lightning arcs every few seconds. Thunder becomes a constant growl. Rain wraps around the storm in a hook, the hook echo on radar. Meteorologists don't guess. They know this is the signature of violence. Hail from a supercell can be the size of tennis balls or softballs. In 2010, South Dakota recorded a hailstone 20 centimeters across. It weighed nearly a kilogram. Wind gusts top 130 kilometers per hour. Stop signs bend, billboards snap, but wind isn't the worst part. Tornadoes are born here. Most EF4 and EF5 tornadoes, the ones that obliterate neighborhoods, form inside supercells. They descend like drills, funneling sky to earth. Pressure drops. The roar begins. You can have sunlight nearby. Blue sky. And then, from one corner of the cloud, the funnel forms. It hunts. In 2011, Joplin, Missouri was hit by an EF5 tornado spawned by a supercell. Winds reached over 320 kilometers per hour. 161 lives lost. Thousands were injured. A hospital leveled. And the storm? It kept going. Monitor radar, not just skies. These storms give off clear signs. Hook echoes, mammatus clouds, rotating wall clouds. Have a safe room or basement ready. And keep helmets for kids. It can save their lives.
A supercell is less storm and more full-on atmospheric engine, a 6-hour skyscraper of chaos, churning like it's unionized against rooftops. That 20-centimeter hailstone, basically a frozen bowling ball from space, and tornadoes forming out of this, terrifying that you can have sunshine one block over while the next block gets erased. Nature's flexing hard here, and the hook echo is basically the boss fight warning screen on radar.
Level 4. The derecho. A wall of wind, no spiral, no funnel, just raw horizontal force. Derecho, from the Spanish word for straight, is a massive, fast-moving line of storms that travels like a land hurricane. It forms when clusters of thunderstorms merge into a bow-shaped formation, all feeding off a shared pool of energy. It doesn't rotate, but it advances like an army. Winds reach 120 to 160 kilometers per hour. The damage path can be hundreds of kilometers wide and thousands long. Unlike a tornado, which carves narrow tracks, a derecho levels everything in its path. In 2020, a derecho swept across Iowa and the Midwest. It destroyed over 10 million acres of crops. Winds hit 225 kilometers per hour. Power was knocked out for over a week in multiple states. Trees snapped like twigs. Grain silos crumpled. People didn't call it a thunderstorm. They called it a freight train. The scariest part, derechos move fast. You don't get hours of buildup, just darkening skies, a sudden roar, and collapse. Emergency alerts might buy you 10 minutes. No more. Have multiple days' worth of food, water, and power sources. These storms knock out grids across states. Stay indoors, away from trees or power lines, and don't assume it's just wind. Derechos mimic hurricane landfalls.
A derecho is basically nature saying, tornadoes? Cute. Watch me carpet bomb half a state. And that 2020 Iowa storm wiping out 10 million acres of crops was like Thanos snapping but with corn. The freight train comparison nails it. You don't see a funnel, you just hear doom approaching. And unlike hurricanes, no week-long countdown, you get 10 minutes tops before roofs start auditioning as kites.
Level 5. The cyclone/hurricane/typhoon. It starts as a whisper over warm water, a tropical depression, low pressure pulling air inward. But as it feeds on the heat of the ocean, it strengthens, organizes, spins. Coriolis force takes hold, bending the storm into a spiral. Thunderstorms cluster around the center, winds pick up, and then the eye forms. Call it a cyclone in the Indian Ocean, a hurricane in the Atlantic, a typhoon in the Pacific. It's the same monster, different names, same rules. Sustained winds must exceed 119 kilometers per hour to earn the name, but many storms grow far stronger. Category 3, Category 4, Category 5. The eye, a deceptive calm, can be 30 to 50 kilometers wide. But the eye wall, the ring of storms around it, is the most violent place on Earth. Winds over 250 kilometers per hour, pressure lower than your car tires. Storm surge is the real killer. Winds shove seawater toward shore. Tides rise meters higher than normal. Entire neighborhoods vanish under salt water. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina sent an 8-meter surge into the Gulf Coast. In New Orleans, levees failed, and the city drowned. Over 1,800 people died, many not from the wind, but from the flood that lingered after. Rainfall from these systems doesn't end in hours, it continues for days. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey dumped over 1,500 millimeters of rain in Texas. That's the height of a grown man, in water. Typhoon Haiyan, in 2013, became one of the most powerful landfalls ever. Winds hit 315 kilometers per hour. Over 6,000 people died in the Philippines. Cities were flattened, airports submerged, and even after landfall, these storms don't die immediately. They travel inland, bringing tornadoes, flooding, and chaos hundreds of kilometers from shore. They're not just storms, they're multi-day disasters. And their names? Retired, because history doesn't want to see them again. Evacuate early if officials say so. Storm surge kills more than wind. If you stay, stock 3 to 7 days of essentials, reinforce windows, and know the difference between a watch and a warning. And never wait until the eye passes. The back end is often worse.
Hurricanes are like the final boss of storms. Not just a weather event, but a multi-day siege. And it's kind of funny, the eye feels like a cosmic prank. Calm skies, then boom, eye wall chaos with winds faster than Formula One cars. Katrina's surge drowning New Orleans and Harvey literally raining a person's height in water shows it's not just wind, but slow, suffocating floods. And yeah, when a storm's name gets retired, that's basically the Hall of Fame of destruction.
Level 6. The tornado outbreak. 1 tornado is a tragedy. 20 is a reckoning. But what happens when the sky gives birth to hundreds in just days? This is a tornado outbreak, a chain reaction of supercells, each spinning off funnels like clockwork. They don't wait for each other. They don't take turns. They come in waves. The US has seen this firsthand. In April 2011, the super outbreak carved a scar into American weather history. Over 4 days, 360 tornadoes touched down across 21 states. 11 of them were rated EF4 or EF5, the most violent categories. Entire towns were wiped off the map. 324 people died. Thousands more were injured. Tuscaloosa, Alabama was hit by a mile-wide tornado with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. It leveled neighborhoods, shredded power lines, twisted steel beams into coils. It lasted only minutes, but the scars remain over a decade later. These storms often come at night, rain-wrapped, invisible. Sirens wail, but not everyone hears. Radar tracks rotation, but it can't stop it. The outbreak turns a region into a battlefield. Homes become shelters, cars become coffins, and emergency services, they're overwhelmed before the second hour. Tornado outbreaks are rare, but when they happen, they define a generation, not by the number of storms, but by the number of stories that never finished. Install a weather radio with battery backup. Cell towers fail. Build a storm plan with your family and practice it. Interior closets, basements, storm shelters. That's where you live when the sirens start.
A tornado outbreak is like the weather equivalent of a franchise crossover event. One supercell spinoff after another until the whole sky feels industrialized for chaos. That 2011 super outbreak was basically the Avengers Endgame of storms, except the villain won. A mile-wide funnel shredding Tuscaloosa with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. That's not weather, that's urban renewal by Blender. And the scariest part, they often strike at night, unseen.
Level 7. The bomb cyclone. You don't always need warm water to create a monster. Sometimes all you need is falling pressure. Fast. Too fast. This is a bomb cyclone, a storm that deepens explosively. Technically, it's called bombogenesis, a drop in atmospheric pressure of 24 millibars in 24 hours. But what it does? Feels nothing short of violent. The result is a hybrid beast, part blizzard, part hurricane, all chaos. Winds scream at over 150 kilometers per hour. Snowfall rates hit 5 centimeters per hour. Visibility drops to 0. In March 2019, one of the strongest bomb cyclones ever recorded in the US slammed the Central Plains. Pressure dropped to 968 millibars, lower than many hurricanes. 1,000 plus flights cancelled, hundreds of thousands lost power, and record floods followed the snow. The storm spawned tornadoes in Texas and whiteouts in Wyoming. It shut down interstates, trapped drivers for days. Livestock froze where they stood. And that's the thing. Bomb cyclones are continental storms with oceanic strength. They can paralyze the Northeast, slam Europe, or strangle Japan. They ignore seasons. And when they explode, it's never quiet. They don't bring one disaster. They bring several, each one fighting for your attention. Stock blankets, food, and backup heat. Hypothermia happens fast when the power goes. Avoid travel entirely. Roads vanish under whiteout. And remember, if you get stranded, stay with your vehicle. Leaving it often leads to death.
A bomb cyclone sounds like weather scientists accidentally named it after a metal album, but it fits. Pressure just free falls and suddenly you've got a snow hurricane hybrid breathing down your neck. That 2019 storm dropping to 968 millibars. That's basically a landlocked hurricane in cosplay. Flights canceled, livestock frozen, highways erased. It's like the storm couldn't pick a disaster, so it brought the whole sampler platter.
Level 8. The polar vortex collapse. It's not a storm in the usual sense. No lightning, no thunder, just air. Colder than thought possible, descending like a silent executioner. The polar vortex is a high-altitude belt of wind that circles the Arctic. Normally, it traps cold air near the pole, but sometimes that belt weakens, splits, and the cold escapes. It slides south over North America, Europe, or Asia, bringing with it temperatures that don't just chill. They break things. In February 2021, Texas, a state more familiar with heat waves, was hit with Arctic cold. Temperatures dropped to minus 18 degrees Celsius in Dallas. The energy grid collapsed. 4.5 million homes lost power. At least 246 people died, most from hypothermia, carbon monoxide poisoning, or medical equipment failures. Water pipes burst, ICUs shut down. The state was frozen for a week, and it cost $195 billion in damage. The collapse of the polar vortex isn't dramatic, it's cruel. Because it comes without flashing skies or rumbling clouds, just stillness, and then pain. And while these events are rare, they're becoming more frequent as climate patterns shift. The vortex doesn't obey borders, and when it falls apart, so does everything beneath it. Insulate your home before winter hits, wrap pipes, seal windows. Keep carbon monoxide detectors working, generators and indoor heaters kill silently. Check on neighbors. The most vulnerable freeze first, and help won't always arrive in time.
The polar vortex collapse feels less like weather and more like the Arctic prison break. Instead of explosions, it's this quiet, merciless cold that just seeps in and shuts society down. Texas 2021 proved it. Pipes burst like soda cans in a freezer, hospitals froze, and the energy capital of America literally couldn't keep the lights on. No thunder, no spectacle, just nature's deadpan way of saying, oh, you weren't ready? Too bad.
Level 9. The hypercane. No one's seen one, no one survived one, but science says it's possible. And that alone should be enough. A hypercane isn't a storm. It's a monster, a hypothetical tropical cyclone that forms when sea surface temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius. That's 20 degrees Celsius hotter than what currently fuels hurricanes. And it would make them look tame. Estimated wind speeds 800 kilometers per hour. That's twice the strongest hurricanes on record. A hypercane would punch into the stratosphere, injecting moisture and aerosols that could damage the ozone layer. Its eye could be 80 kilometers wide. Its spiral arms stretch across entire continents. Once formed, it could persist for weeks, circling equators, destabilizing global weather, and destroying everything in its path. Floods, storm surge, wind damage on a planetary scale. What could create it? An asteroid strike, a supervolcanic eruption heating the oceans, or, in a darker timeline, runaway global warming. This level doesn't just destroy cities, it threatens atmospheric stability. And while we haven't seen a hypercane, yet, if ocean heat content keeps rising, what's theoretical now may not stay theoretical for long.
That's insanely crazy. A hypercane sounds less like weather and more like the final DLC boss of Earth itself. Winds at 800 kilometers per hour? That's not a storm, that's a planet-sized blender. The fact it could damage the ozone layer shows it's not just wrecking cities, it's rewriting the atmosphere. And the triggers, asteroid, supervolcano, or climate spiral all scream apocalypse starter pack.
Level 10, the planetary storm. To understand level 10, you have to look up. Not at the clouds, at the planets. Jupiter's Great Red Spot has raged for at least 350 years. It's a storm so massive it could swallow Earth twice. Winds exceed 640 kilometers per hour, and it's not shrinking fast. On Saturn, a hexagonal storm locks around the North Pole. Six-sided symmetry born from fluid dynamics we barely understand. It has raged for decades, surrounded by auroras and ammonia clouds. These are planetary storms, ones that last centuries, evolve in place, and leave geological records instead of debris. They're not theoretical, they're real, just not here, yet. Could Earth see something like this? Only under extreme runaway climate conditions. Atmospheric modeling shows that if CO2 reaches critical thresholds and oceans boil, our planet could enter a new phase. Permanent storm cells, supersaturated air columns, cyclones that never end. And historically, Earth once had a thicker atmosphere and hotter seas. Venus, once potentially habitable, is now a furnace wrapped in permanent hurricane-force winds. Our twin, if everything goes wrong. So level 10 isn't a forecast, it's a warning, because weather isn't just a local concern, it's a planetary expression, and sometimes a planetary breakdown. You can't control the sky, but you can control what you do before it breaks. If this content made you think twice about the weather, imagine what's next. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next disaster before it forms. And seriously, thank you for the love, the comments, the shares. We see you, we appreciate you. This channel's growing because of you, and we're just getting started.
Level 10 feels like staring into the weather multiverse. Storms that don't just pass, they define planets. Jupiter flexes with a hurricane older than the US. Saturn runs a six-sided rave no scientist fully gets. And Venus is Earth's evil twin, showing what happens if we let climate tip too far. It's both awe and warning. Skies aren't permanent, they're fragile. The Saster absolutely crushed this video, links in the description. Next time, let's just say the topic isn't from this world either. Stay nerdy.